Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We got several lots of breaking news today, including the fact that an ICE agent had to shoot looks like a left-wing, pride-loving woman in her vehicle as she tried to run him over. Now we're going to watch a little bit of that clip here, a little closer to the end. But first, let's get into some other things going on in the news. I want to leave that one for the last because I want to explain a little bit about Minneapolis, Minnesota, George Floyd, the whole situation with what they're trying to do right this minute in Minnesota. They're trying to turn the American people against ICE because of the situation. But if you watch the video, it's clearly obvious what happened. But we will get into that. I don't want to get ahead of myself, get ahead of my skis. But first off, we've got breaking news. Ron DeSantis says we have a possible situation in Florida with Maduro as well. So they're going to try to bring Maduro to, it looks like, the Southern District of Florida to be held on charges. Let's get into it. Sounds interesting. Ron DeSantis, Jesse Waters. Here we go.
I'd also say that I know they indicted him in the Southern District of New York. We also have the right as a state to bring pertinent charges in state court, and we're working on that. Our Attorney General is leading that effort, and you may see charges filed in a place like Miami or Doral, which we're entitled to do.
Good. So
I'd also say that I know they indicted.
So Ron DeSantis, it sounds like, is working on an indictment, grand jury indictment of Maduro as well. For there's probably a dozen charges, if not 24 charges, they could get him on. Maybe something involving being a terrorist sympathizer, considering the cartels are terrorists at this point, and he's been working with them since we declared them terrorists. Maybe we can put him in Guantanamo Bay, and they can work it out with Governor DeSantis how they're gonna set up his time blocks, or however they got to do it, run it consecutive, or however they got to do it. But I would prefer that Maduro stays in jail forever, sings like a bird, helps us put some of these deep state actors in jail, as well as some of these corrupt drug dealing CIA agents. And I said it, we got some CIA agents in the past that have been facilitating for 15 or 20 years, if not 3 or 4 wars, bad things into our country. And I have to believe it's from human trafficking to, of course, the illicit drug trade. But we won't go down that rabbit hole today, but there was a day that our CIA was, and probably still is, controlling the South American countries for that very reason. So it'll be interesting what we find out from Maduro. The public will probably never hear most of it, just my opinion. But it is good to know that he is probably in more hot water than he could personally deal with. Says President Trump just announced that Venezuela's interim regime will be buying only in American-made products. With proceeds from oil sales, these purchases will include, among other things, American agricultural products, American-made medicines, medical devices, and equipment to improve Venezuela's electric grid and energy facilities. In other words, Venezuela is committed to doing business with the United States of America as their principal partner, a wise choice and a very good thing for the people of Venezuela of the United States. What's going to happen is we're going to enrich Venezuela by actually pumping the oil out of their ground. And when they're enriched, the population over there actually gets to work. The people in power are not being paid through cartels, but being paid through oil proceeds, a percentage from whatever they get because it's their country. They will be able to set real elections, set up a better power grid, set up an infrastructure where people have jobs through several industries which will be created due to the boom of business with the thousands of people that are going to be, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be involved in the whole process of getting the stuff out of the ground, and all the catering and the food businesses, and just anytime a business comes to town or crops back up or kicks into high gear, like in this situation, it's only going to create revenue. It's only going to create commerce. There's no doubt about it. and Trump wants them to trade with us, and mostly with us. So therefore, what money we make off the oil is our money to help our country. What money they make off the oil will help them rebuild their country for a cost, and in turn, they'll eventually be a democracy um, that is able to depend on themselves because they have the resources. And so I think it is a brilliant idea to not just knock out their leader, take their leader and put him in jail because he's a tyrant and he wasn't duly elected, but put somebody in there better, like the lady that won the Nobel Peace Prize and offered to share it with Trump. I forget her name at the moment, but that would be a great that she would be a great option there. But you got to fill that void and that vacuum with somebody that's decent in there that is okay with not listening to the cartels anymore, and on the same hand is willing to do business with the United States because we're going to be doing business with them hand in hand from this point forward because of the oil industry that we actually built over there. They had oil underneath them. We went over there 20 something years ago and spent billions of dollars to get it coming out of the ground, refineries and things. And when Hugo Chavez got into power, he literally kicked us out of the country, and they've been dealing with China, Russia, and Iran ever since. And so it was an absolute necessary thing to do. People think, oh, it's only a dictator would go take another leader out. No, it's in our same hemisphere, and they're dealing with our enemies. It was absolutely a strategic necessity as far as I'm concerned. I thought it was brilliant. And the rest of South America better watch out as well, and Canada as well. If they continue to let the fentanyl flow in here, we're going to have to sanction them even harder, and maybe do something even more drastic to Trudeau, because we all know he's a tyrant as well. But first, before we get into a couple of these short clips today of what's going on around the world, I wanted to talk a little bit about more Somali fraud in the name of human trafficking. But we'll get into that directly. Won't say too much about it considering it is of the minors. But first, let's get into Brandon Gill. Republican Brandon Gill was in the House today, and they were grilling the shit out of several people in Minnesota's higher ups about the massive Somali and immigration fraud. And it just got ugly quick. There was a lot of lefties there trying to defend the Somalis, while the people on the right that were asking the questions, the Jim Jordan types, were just burning these people down to the ground because it's blatantly obvious what the hell's going on. Now listen here to Brandon Gill ask the question: you think Somalis are good for Minnesota, or do you think they're bad for Minnesota? Check out this guy's answer. Doesn't go over too well once the facts start hitting him in the face. This is how bad it is in Minnesota.
I want to start with you, Mr. Balu. Again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years,
Damn.
78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
Non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somalis.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here. So, again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again, I keep trying to.
It doesn't sound like something that makes our country stronger to me, and I think most Americans would agree with me on that. I need to move on.
Yeah, he burned him up pretty good right there, I must say.
I want to start with.
I am not going to lie, folks. I thought that it went on actually for quite a while like that. Several of them just couldn't answer the questions properly. Now, here's my question. Rumble's bad about doing this. The next video just jumping on. I hate it. That's the one crappy thing about Rumble. Anytime you play a Rumble video on here and I pause it, it will, or even try to stop it, it will take off on its own again. But we're going to get into this right here. It says Somali gangs were indicted for running child ex-trafficking ring in 3 states with children as young as 14 years old. So they're pimping, basically. That's what it sounds like. Now, will the Democrats defend these guys? Will these guys be Maryland dads or poor Somali refugees, or even a woman, and all guys except for one, even a woman involved in this crap? That's sad. This is a trafficking ring that was busted in 2010. 29 people were arrested in Minnesota, Ohio, and Tennessee. 29 Somali gang members were arrested and indicted in a ex-trafficking ring in which Somali gangs in Minneapolis and St. Paul allegedly forced girls under the age of 14 into doing the nasty in Minnesota, Tennessee, and Ohio, according to an indictment. These guys are like their own little Somali cartel, the Somali pirate cartel. Dang. So the indictment claims the ring involved 3 Minneapolis-based gangs, the Somali Outlaws, the Somali Mafia, and the Lady Outlaws. That all 3 gangs are connected. Now, I want to look into those. I'm going to screenshot this and look into the Somali Outlaws and the Somali Mafia and the Lady Outlaws. That is definitely that I have not heard anything about on the internet up to this point. Are they related to these folks, same folks that are running all these bigger scams? Did the Somali Outlaws grow up and become financial wizards and learn how to swindle Tim Waltz out of state funds, federal government funding to the state? I wonder. We're going to find out. It says the men and women charged were either gang members, associates of gangs, or indicted. The range aged from 19 to 30. The indictment says the ring operated for 10 years with the defendants recruiting girls to engage in the nasty. One girl was just 13 in 2005. She was taken from Minneapolis area to an apartment in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, to engage in the nasty. This girl was also taken to Columbus, Ohio, and other locations for doing the same thing. So they are interstate human prostitution, underage sex trafficking of children. Dang. Now, I want to look into these. Anybody want to go down a rabbit hole with me? I dare you to look into the Somali Outlaws, the Somali Mafia, and the Lady Outlaws and find out how many news stories there are out there about these things. I'm going to ask Rock here directly. It's a good question. Are they connected? Seems like the Somalis been running things in Minnesota and for several states for a long time. But I would say this stuff that's going on in Tennessee as well. Maybe they need to look into Nashville, Tennessee, and see what the Somali population is over there. Are they getting away with this daycare fraud in Tennessee as well? It's a good question. Another great question is, how many Somalis live in Nashville, Tennessee? Now, this is some really interesting news, a little bit off topic, but we're okay with it. It says, "We are coming for you," says Kristi Noem today. ICE descends on Minneapolis, and this was before it got ugly today, before an ICE agent had to put down a crazy lady. And I hate to see anybody be put away, demised, unalived, but the lady was literally willing to run the guy over and would have been okay with it if she could have got away. When you stomp on the gas pedal, when the cops are trying to take you out of your vehicle, you can catch any kind of case at that point, including a bullet. That's just a fact, folks. It's when you try to run somebody over with a 4,000-pound car, I would say that to render the vehicle to stop the quickest would be to stop you. You're not going to shoot the car and make it quit in a hurry. I don't want to justify this anyway, other than the fact of the matter is he was defending himself, and that's what I believe.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem joins me now. Ms. Secretary, you've been out there on the ground. What have you found out so far?
Well, Jesse, the amount of fraud in Minnesota is unprecedented. It's incredible what we've found. And we did surge operations there the last 48 hours. We've sent 2,000 more ICE officers, HSI officers, individuals there to help get to the bottom of it. But what we're finding is not only people who've come into this country illegally, but they've perpetuated crimes on people, then they've stolen the American citizens' money and they've put it in their own pockets and then the pockets of other individuals that are here, businesses, individuals that bought luxury homes and took vacations, and they all did it using somebody else's money and money that should have been used to help people who really was supposed to benefit from these programs. Medicaid individuals that were supposed to get help for developmental services, that were handicapped individuals, people who had autism that needed services, and they didn't get it because these criminals were out there stealing the money and instead benefiting themselves.
All right, so they're ripping off the most vulnerable members of society, and people were blowing the whistle in Minnesota, and the politicians weren't listening, were they?
No, absolutely not. In fact, so many Minnesota state employees were saying, Governor Walz, pay attention to this. People are stealing the money. These are not legitimate businesses. They are not legitimate nonprofits. And he ignored.
Yeah, we all know what Tim Walz did. He ignored the situation. He was getting campaign contributions. That was his voter block. He thought he was helping maintain the power by catering to anybody in the country that even looked like an immigrant. Just a fact, folks. She says, we've got them all off the streets. We did what we could. No help from Governor Walz and no help from Democrats who are trying to cover everything up. We ignored them and did the work the president has given to do us. Thank God we have a president who wants to make America great and safe again for every single citizen, regardless of what state you live in. Well, the governor of California says, bring it on, Kristi. She has threatened. Kristi Noem says, oh, well, there will be. Oh, well, we'll be there. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Minnesota is unbelievable based on what we've seen, but it's leading us to a network of all over the country and overseas. We're going to follow every single one of them. Homeland Security Investigations is an incredible team that goes after human trafficking, ex-trafficking, and both the fraud and our public programs tied to California. Absolutely, we're coming. We're coming for you, Governor Newsom. We're going to arrest every single individual tied to the stealing of taxpayer dollars, and we will hold them accountable. We will bring them to justice. I think she's right, folks. I think they're serious about this one. I don't think we're playing anymore, folks. We started the year off with arrests, which we've all been praying for a solid year. And it was Maduro and his wife, but actually it started with about 100 Somalians and more to come. And Maduro and his wife. So, yeah, we're a week into the new year. And arrests are happening, folks. Whether you know it or not, we haven't seen a politician go to jail yet. But arrests are coming. Mr. Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, is going to jail. I promise you on that one. Tim Walz may be going to jail. He will definitely resign in the next 10 months. You watch. He says he's not going to, but he's going to. The heat is going to get so hot on this fire, he's going to have to jump out the pan. Now, Dr. Oz even weighed in on this. He's explaining about this Minnesota fraud. Now, Dr. Oz works for Trump as well, and so his position puts him in the position to stop Medicaid, Medicare, food stamp fraud. Says you've probably heard the news by now. Minnesota fraudsters stole over $1 billion from Medicaid, and you deserve an explanation. Our staff at CMS told me that never seen anything like this in Medicaid, and everyone from Tim Walz on down, the Governor Tim Walz on down, needs to be investigated because of this. All right, let's get into it.
It's true. A Somali fraud ring in Minnesota stole over $1 billion from Medicaid. How did this happen? Well, Medicaid programs are run by the states, which in Minnesota means the Tim Walz administration. Governor Walz and the state's other Democrats rely on Somali votes to get elected, so they decided to look the other way because they were afraid of, quote-unquote, political backlash. Don't take my word for it. That's what a Somali-American fraud investigator told the New York Times. When these scammers realized that nobody was guarding the cash register, they went gangbusters. One program designed to provide housing stabilization assistance to patients ballooned to $104 million, when 4 years ago it was projected to cost only $2.6 million. Some of these taxpayer funds may have even ended up in the hands of a Somalian terrorist group. Scary stuff. When CMS became aware of the housing program situation, Minnesota insisted it could clean up its own mess. A few months ago, it admitted it could not. So we stepped in to shut down the fraud-infested housing initiative. Today, we're taking action on more than a dozen other programs, which I've outlined in the post below. Our message to Walz is clear. Either fix this in 60 days or start looking under your couch for spare change, because we are done footing the bill for your incompetence. This administration will never stop fighting to protect the vulnerable Americans who rely on these programs and the taxpayers who fund them. We're going to crush waste, fraud, and abuse.
Sounds right to me. Cut off the money, make them prove that they're needed for the expense is real, make them reapply, and everybody that doesn't reapply, do a double take on them, because those are the people that know they were screwing the pooch. They knew they were screwing the system. Now, Caroline Levitt had a couple of great things to say today I thought was really interesting. I usually don't bring y'all much of Caroline Levitt because I figure if you want to hear her most time, you've already heard it on Fox News because she's usually got a daily report on whatever's going on explosive in the world today. But sometimes, I watch her most of the time, but sometimes she just says something that I just have to share with you. This happens to be the case today. She just announced that President Trump is sending the whole government after Tim Walz in Minnesota's undercover fraud situation. To uncover this fraud situation. 2,000 agents on the ground, FBI is on the ground, HHS is freezing money, U.S. Department of Agriculture is investigating, USDA is investigating SNAP, and this is a massive win. Yeah, folks, heads are starting to roll. We're starting to claw back the money, is what's going to happen. We're going to investigate with Congress. We're going to indict with the DOJ.
Higher government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump, and he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable, and I think the Department of Justice is going to find out. Higher government effort. We are surging resources.
We are surging resources, folks. It is coming on quick. We are surging police resources to investigate all these states while we are cutting off the trough, the spigot of the money flowing to these fraud schemes. Now, I hope one of my listeners remembers these Somali outlaws and these three different Somali gangs, and actually does a little bit of investigative homework. Lets me know in the comment section what they found out. Maybe they'll find out different information than me. We may have to do a video about it together. We may have to make it a collective effort to, on this channel, to go after some of these clowns. I only have so much time on my hands, but I do like to do a little bit of investigative journalism, and I know a lot of you like to dig too, like to find the little details that not too many people have exploited yet or exposed yet. And I believe maybe Tennessee, from that one of those last clips, is a hot mess too with the Somali problem. Let's find out together. Is anybody interested? Let me know. And I appreciate the comments either way, folks. Now, here is another great thing that is happening. USA is canceling all money for NGOs, non-governmental organizations. This is the root of the problem for the violence in our country, the protests in our country, the stealing of our elections, the left-wing lunacy that promotes even the media. The NGOs have helped the influx of illegal immigrants into our country. The NGOs are the demon or the devil as far as I'm concerned. They are, I think, ones like Catholic Charities started out as a good thing, feeding people and helping people that are displaced. But in the end, when they got on the government's teat, it was like morals didn't matter. The mission changed because the money was better. And that's what I see happen with all these NGOs. Some NGOs cropped up just to be fraud schemes, but some NGOs were probably in it for the right reason in the beginning, and then fraud was an option to them, and look how it went. It says USA cancels all money for NGOs. It's finally over. The fraud scheme that existed around the world with organizations raking in millions from Western countries has come to an end. For example, USAID. Canceling USAID basically cut off the vault, the transaction door to a big part of this NGO slush fund money transfer thing's been going on for way too long. Foreign aid is another word for bribing somebody to help you steal some money from your home country. That's what I believe is really been going on, folks, but we won't get into that on this broadcast, but y'all know. So the UK must do the same. No more NGOs. We got to get rid of them suckers. They got to be done. We got to be done with them. Marco Rubio says they got to go. And I ain't mad at him.
The United States has spent billions of dollars over the years in helping with health strategies all across the world. What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description, what would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with our health care needs. Then we would drive over to Northern Virginia somewhere, find an NGO, one of these organizations, give them all the money, tell them go to this country and do their health care program for them. That NGO would then take about some percentage of that money for their overhead and administrative costs. And by the time it got down to it, the host country had very little influence. It was sort of imposed on them. And only a percentage of the overall money ever actually reached the patients and the people on the ground that we were trying to help because of these costs. This makes no sense. So why are we hiring American and international NGOs to go into other countries and run healthcare systems that are parallel and sometimes in conflict with the health?
This is what it is. When the government decides to spend money and they want to give it to an NGO, they say, "Oh, we're going to give Somali $1 billion to rebuild their pirate shipping lane." Well, before we send them the money, a lot of politicians have got to make some money off of it. All their friends and family and everybody they know has got to make some money off of it. So first thing they do is they say, well, if we're going to give away $1 billion, we got to put a panel together of a dozen people that are all going to get paid out of the $1 billion to decide if we needed to give away the $1 billion. And then they go, okay, there's phase one, first expense. Go to phase two. Well, we're going to need some consultants to decide if this is a good idea. And then we're going to need some people that are going to actually do the logistics if we actually send any of that money to that country. And that's going to be a whole team. So those people are going to have to get some of that money out of that $1 billion. Next thing you know, well, if we're going to go ahead and decide if we're going to send them the money since we went this far, we're going to need a team of lawyers and lobbyists. The lawyers to help sort out the paperwork, and the lobbyists to make sure that we have no problems with anybody complaining about how we're stealing the money. Next thing you know, money ricochets off that country. Half the money comes back into the politicians' pockets. The rest of the money that never left our country ends up being in consultants and lawyers and lobbyists and politicians' pockets. That's what's really going on, folks. It's a boomerang effect. It is a way to launder money. It's not so different than the cartels, the way they hide funds in order to legitimize their cash flow. Not so different. They do it with war. They do it with so many things. Just the facts, folks. Just being real with you. That's what's been going on. It ain't that these countries don't need the money or don't get some of the money. It's the fact of the matter is about 70% of the money never leaves this country or boomerangs back to this country.
Healthcare systems of the host country. If we're trying to help countries, help the country. Don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. And so that's what the model that we're breaking. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya are either have no role to play or have very little influence over how healthcare money is being spent. Bottom line is, if you want to help a country, work with that country.
Yeah, we don't need no middleman stealing our money that hates us, that subverts elections, that pours immigrants into our country, that promotes abortion, that loves George Soros. We don't need none of that crap here. No, actually, I would be okay if we stopped giving foreign aid to about 95% of the countries in the world. I think I'd make them all reapply as well. We have a $36 trillion national debt in this country, and we're worried about what's going on in Uganda. Come on, man. Now, whether y'all know it or not, Tim Walz has admitted his guilt, has admitted it. No doubt about it. Anybody out there that does any podcasting, cutting any clips, sharing any shorts or anything like that, I want, when we get to the phase here in the next couple of clips to where I show you the actual woman trying to run over the ICE agents, I would hope some of y'all would find those videos, clip those videos, share those videos, repost those videos, retweet those videos, because as many people on this planet as possible need to know why that woman got shot in Minnesota, and the truth, not the propagandist narrative that Tim Walz is fixing to spew, but the truth.
And it's clear, look, I don't think any governor in history has had to fight a war against the federal government every single day. And now it's reaching down into our commissioners. And look, what Donald Trump tweeted the other night, put the Hortman children's at risk. They have to look at security, put my family at risk again. What he's doing to the Somali community is absolutely unconscionable. And at some point in time, this is about, I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, I bug the crap.
You don't know what it is. Don't play stupid. We know you're stupid, but don't play stupid. Truth be known, Tim Walz is in no danger from any MAGA people. He's in danger of being caught and going to jail. And therefore, he's going to play the victim card. Almost like his skin is melanated or something. Poor mistreated me. I'm a Democrat. It's Trump's fault. Trump hates me. That's why me and the Somali people are suffering. Come on, man.
Out of Donald Trump. I would argue it is because I believe in public service. I've not enriched myself in office. I treat people with dignity. I agree to compromise with people. And the attacks on Minnesota are far beyond me, and it's hurting Minnesota. And it's clear.
He just said he has not enriched himself. Y'all remember that. He has not enriched himself. Now, we'll find out before long where all Tim Walz's money is, probably in an account in China or Cayman Islands or Swiss bank account. But you know Tim Walz has got bars in his pocket like Gold Bar Bob did. Now, I'm hoping Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom will go to jail in the next year or two before Trump's out of office, of course. Now, Tim Walz said that the key part of this conversation is he says Minnesota is at war with the federal government. Now, you can take that however you want to, but it is a Democrat trying to explain how he's the victim, the people of Minnesota are the victims, the Somalis are the victim. Trump is the problem for having a white supremacist Nick Sorter come ask questions. That's what's really going on, folks. Now, the shooting happened today around 10:45 a.m. Wednesday near East 34th Street and Portland Avenue in Minnesota during a targeted ICE raid. Video shown on the SUV reversing briefly before an agent shot the driver, who crashed and died from head wounds at the Hennepin County Medical Center. Video showed the SUV reversing briefly before an agent shot the driver. Now let's look at that for ourselves. That's what Grok says, and I don't even agree with that at this point. I watched the thing myself several times. Trump says, I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator. The woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied. It is in its entirety. But this reason these incidences are happening is because the radical left threatening, assaulting, targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. Let me ad lib in here, not to include the media's help with this. They're just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers and from this radical left movement, violence, and hate. President Donald J. Trump. And the media is at fault, too, for spilling the fucking lies. Pardon my language. But, yeah, it's aggravating. The media plays spin doctor on everything. Now, I have one more thing I want to show you. We're going to go to... Alright, we done lost it. Let me back up here. I had a clip I want to show y'all of what actually happened. Now, the left is screaming George Floyd type riot in the street to storm the courthouse. They've been pepper sprayed. It has gotten ugly today, no doubt about it. I'm not going to lie to you folks. It has gotten ugly today. All right, folks. I had one more clip I was going to show y'all today. I'm not finding it. Let's go to my... Let me go to my search bar. Let's go to trending. If you are not familiar with X, it's pretty easy to navigate over here. Pretty good source of information. ICE agent. Okay, here we go. And they've been, for anybody that doesn't know, we've been seizing oil tankers today as well. It's just the facts, folks. Today's Homeland Security says today's ICE officer in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when riders began blocking ICE officers. On one of these violent riders weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over a law enforcement officer in an attempt to kill him. To an act of domestic terrorism is what they're saying this woman was trying to do. It is an act of terrorism when you're trying to kill a police officer. The video shows the moment the woman tried to run over the ICE agent with her vehicle in Minneapolis, Minnesota, resulting in being shot. Tim Walz is calling ICE agents Gestapo and exactly why this stuff happens. Shame on Tim Walz and Mayor Frey. Now watch. We're going to back it up and we're going to watch it again. Or actually, we're just going to let it scroll again. Alright, this is the very end of the video. Let me scroll down just a hair. Okay, here we go. Replay.
Get the fuck out of our neighborhood!
This is not the best angle either. That's actually,
What the fuck?
that is the worst angle I've seen yet. The other angle, the officer was standing up, probably in front of a little further in front of the headlights. It was a higher up view. We'll probably get to that a little later in the day. And it showed obviously that she gunned it. There was an ICE officer standing in front of her vehicle. One was trying to get in her car door, and she just stepped on the gas. But because this woman was shot today due to her crazy terroristic actions, the mob has broke out in protest, and I'm sure the Democrat Party is loving every minute of it. Says they have now arrived at the ICE-involved shooting scene, and the mayor demands ICE leave the city. No, that's not happening. Pro tip, don't attack ICE agents, and you won't be shot. Exactly what's going on. Now, Tim Walsh today is blaming ICE for this. Says tear gas. Next order says tear gas has been deployed. Pepper spray in South Minneapolis. A freaking mob is formed to attempt to prevent ICE from doing their jobs. Keep pushing, ICE. Dang, just peppered that guy right in the face. Oh. This was the Homeland Security tweet this morning. Good morning, Minneapolis. We're coming. Let's see if we can get a better angle. I'm looking for the better angle here. Oh, now you see why that person got pepper sprayed? This guy tried to grab the pepper spray rifle. This guy has the cop had a pepper spray rifle, or a pepper spray bullet in his rifle, and the agitator tried to grab the gun away from me. I would shoot you in the face too. You try to take my gun away from me. I just think that's how it works when you're in law enforcement. Says witnesses have said all kinds of things have happened today, getting testimony from both sides, claiming this, that, and the other. This is not the best video footage. I am actually still looking. I apologize, folks, but I am trying to get the best video clip of the ICE officer getting hit by her car. There was definitely a better video. It's such a breaking story. It may not. The better clip just may not be here on X yet. I think I've seen it over on. Let's try this. Freedom News. I don't know if this is conservative or not. It's hard to say. Get the lefties out there throwing a fit. No, that's not it. Well, folks, if you get out there today and you're scrolling around on YouTube or X or watching Fox News or one of these Rumble channels, and you find the video in slow motion of the officer not able to get out of the way of the vehicle fast enough as she guns it, puts it in reverse, backs up a couple feet, puts it in drive, and then stomps on the gas. No doubt about it, it was an attempt to murder this ICE officer and get away. And I must just say today that I stand with ICE in this situation. I've seen the video. And now the mayor and the governor are calling ICE the problem here. This is fixing to be an ugly moment. It says, breaking news. Black Hawk spotted overhead near Minneapolis as the National Guard prepares for deployment. This is getting very tense out there. We'll keep you posted, folks. These left-wing politicians that are promoting the fuel of this fire need to be held accountable for sedition and promoting violence. No doubt about it. Yeah, Tim Walsh said we're at war. Dang. It says the Mayor Frey is trying to spark a riot. They're burning the American flag. Says they've already attacked the Capitol building. That vote. Here we go, folks. Maybe all the lib riders in Minneapolis will only burn down Somali fake businesses. Christian Nome has declared this an act of domestic terrorism. These vehicles ram are domestic acts of terrorism. We are working with the DOJ to prosecute them as such. Anybody that tries to run somebody over with a vehicle, especially an officer of the law, you're the problem. Oh, there it is. There's the best thing. I found it, folks. Here we go. Watch it again. Watch right here. That is the best angle, I think, of it I've seen so far. Just putting it out there, folks. I encourage everybody to share clips like this one here. It was put out by Tim Pool here over on X. That way more people know the truth, because the left-wing media is going to spin the crap out of this story and try to make it their new George Floyd moment. Another Minnesota massacre, as they're going to say. You watch. Mark my words, folks, it's already started. That's what we can expect, but just know that ICE is justified